well. Remember that these podcasts are released every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, so be sure to subscribe wherever you're listening to this to make sure that you're kept up to date on the latest episodes. So today we'll be covering how to set goals, what to do, and why that will make all the difference in getting you where you need to be. We'll be covering quite a lot today, so make sure you listen up. You may want to write some bits down to help you actually go through the process of setting these goals, or you may want to listen back once we've finished just to take any notes and make sure that your goals are stoppable. Before we get into anything, I think it's important to start with the question, why do we need to set goals? So after doing quite a lot of reading around this, there's quite a lot of interesting findings around this, that actually goal setting can increase your motivation and commitment to goals and enable you to achieve them. Goal setting can also lead to improved performance, and I read a review and it was a meta-analysis which basically just looks at lots of different papers and sort of finds a general consensus across them, and found that the average improvement of performance by setting goals was 17%, which is actually quite big if you think about it. The study also found that goal setting was strongest, or was best, when those goals were specific and challenging for the individuals as well, which is important to note. Goal setting can boost your self-esteem and confidence as well. So when people achieve their goals or are moving towards their goals, they tend to see a big boost in their confidence and can lead them to actually go on to make more goals moving forwards, and also be more motivated to actually achieve their goals, tend to see better decision making as well, and be more resilient, which is really, really important factors in day-to-day life, not just in goal setting. Goal setting can also help you overcome obstacles, which is one of the main parts of goal setting, and helps you persevere during those difficult times and gives you a reason to keep going. And lastly, the research suggests that it actually helps us learn and grow. So being able to actually take these things and move forward and benefit from them, and use that knowledge and skills and those abilities to further move forward to where we want to be. So actually making a goal is, as you can hear, a really good idea. And hopefully this helps you through this process as well, understanding why we're actually going through this. One of the phrases or the quotes that I love is, fail to plan or plan to fail. And there's another one which, a goal without a plan is just a wish. And I think that's really relevant to a lot of people who just think that these goals are going to happen by themselves, and actually setting a plan. We also heard there that goal setting can help with motivation, and as you would have heard in the previous episodes, motivation is one of the things that we tend to lean into or lean on or use as a bit of a crutch, which isn't that reliable. So actually helps us with building that discipline that we spoke about and taking action, which will help us feel more motivated moving forward. So this is all well and good, but maybe, or probably the reason why you listen to this is because you want to actually learn how to structure a goal and actually put a goal in place today. So we're definitely going to cover that now. One of the models that people often use or is quoted is SMART models, which I'm sure many people have heard of. If you haven't, don't worry, we're going to cover that now. Just give it a brief overview, and then we'll see how relevant that is moving forward. So SMART is an acronym, SMART, and they each stand for something. So the S stands for specific. Your goal needs to be specific enough that you know exactly what you want to achieve. For example, when we're looking at potentially weight loss, people might say, I want to lose weight. Well, actually, we want to put a more specific number on it potentially, or go into a bit of detail. So be as specific as you can. So I want to lose 10 pounds in the next 3 months. That's more specific than I just want to lose weight. The M stands for measurable. So ideally your goal should be measurable, or you need to be able to track progress. For example, people might say they want to eat more fruits and vegetables, but a better way to measure that would be, I want to eat 3 to 5 fruits and vegetables per day each week moving forward. You can see there's a big difference there between just a general sort of plan where I'm going to eat more. Doesn't really tell us where we're at and where we want to go, when actually saying that 3 to 5 range can be really useful in giving us targets that we want to hit. The A stands for achievable. Your goals should be challenging, as we've said before, that actually they are more beneficial when they do offer a bit of a challenge, but we need to make sure that challenge isn't unrealistic and actually make sure that we're able to achieve it. If your goal's too easy, you probably won't be motivated to do it at all, or you might sort of achieve it too quickly and then sort of brush it off. If it's too difficult, it will probably discourage you moving forward. It will take too long to get there, and you'll lose that drive, lose that discipline, and find something else to do instead. The R stands for relevant. this is pretty obvious, but your goal should be relevant to your overall objectives or goals or what you want to achieve. If your goal isn't relevant, then you're probably not going to be motivated to achieve it because it doesn't really align with your goals or your values and doesn't really take you where you want to be. And the T stands for time bound. Your goal should have a deadline, ideally. This will enable you to sort of set up a plan across that time period, and again helps with motivation, but allows you to almost break it down to smaller bits. So if we're looking at something 12 months away, you may have milestones at 9 months, 6 months, 3 months. You may have one every 4 weeks, and that allows you to feel more motivated more often because you've got shorter targets to aim for that are like stepping stones to that larger goal. So that can be really useful to have them as a time-bound goal. So a lot of you might be sitting there thinking, well, we've done SMART goals before and I know how to do that, so what's the point of this podcast? So for me, SMART goals actually feature in a larger model that I use a lot with clients and I've used myself, and this model is called the GROW model. It's probably more robust in my opinion and gives you a lot more perspective. It's easier and probably more motivating because it allows you to add a lot more perspective to it and see the journey through it and plan ahead a little bit better and makes you more prepared along the journey, and therefore it makes it more effective. So model has 4 stages and each stands for a letter, the same as SMART, it's an acronym. So it's G, R, and W, and we'll go through those now. So the G stands for goal. So what is the actual goal? And this is potentially where you might want to use the SMART model to help set this goal. You want to be specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time bound, yes, but having this overall perspective and seeing and making it really specific and making sure that we've got lots of points along the way we can sort of measure progress, where we can have an end time point where we want to achieve it by, making sure it's relevant. All these add up to making sure that we've got a really robust goal. Now this is where this model goes into a league of its own, in my opinion. So it's really good to have this goal, but actually the R stands for reality. And this is what I found really effective with patients and clients, is that actually assessing where they are now to where they want to be can actually help them visualize that process and really assess whether it's actually going to be an attainable goal or if it's realistic moving forward. It's really important to ask yourself questions like, right, so where am I now? What are my strengths and weaknesses in regards to this goal that I'm trying to achieve? And what resources do I have available right now that actually I might either need to lean into, or what do I need moving forward? So we've got this goal and we understand where we are now. The O stands for options or obstacles. So this really links into the process and outcome goals that we'll talk about later. But the options actually is a question of what are the different things that you can do to achieve this goal? How are we going to achieve this goal? What sort of things can we commit to? The obstacles actually is a really interesting one as well that people don't take into consideration usually, is what are the obstacles that might sort of come along the way, or what obstacles can I envisage might be an issue or make things more challenging. And the reason I find this really useful is because people are often really optimistic and feel that we overestimate how much we can achieve in a short amount of time and underestimate how much we can achieve in a long period of time. And I've sat down with countless people during the gym session, and we've sat down and go, right, so what's the plan? They give me this big elaborate plan that, right, I've just joined the gym, I'm going to come here 5 days a week and I'm going to do that. I'm going to lose 3 stone in my first month. And again, it's great to see that they're really motivated, but actually being aware of the obstacles that might prevent them being able to do that is going to help them in being more resilient, more flexible, and have the tools to overcome that. So if you set out from going from not going to the gym at all to 5 days a week, actually thinking about, right, so what's my weekly schedule look like? How am I going to squeeze those gym sessions in? How long are those gym sessions going to be? And what sort of things might prevent me from attending the gym? So if I sit down with someone and go, right, so 5 days a week, when are we going to go? And they go, actually Monday's a long day for me, it's a tough day at the office, and I'm working away on Tuesday, and that's a long day, and I come in and actually I've got this thing on Tuesday night, so, and already we're cutting down the days, and that's not everyone's reality, that is some people's reality. So actually be more realistic, and it allows us to lean into that SMART model again to assess whether actually it is attainable, if it's going to be, are we going to be able to achieve the time goal that we want? Is it really relevant to what we're going to be able to do? The O option of options and obstacles helps bring us back down to go, right, let's put a plan in place, and almost the process goals that we want to set there of going, right, so what things can I do to move me forward to my goal? What things are potentially going to stop me? So we've done our goal, we've looked at our reality, and we've assessed the options and obstacles. Now the W is what can you do, or ways to work around. So committing to certain options. Yes, we've sort of had a look at our options beforehand, but as I've said, some of them might not be feasible. So actually the W helps us narrow that down to going, right, this is what I can do from today moving forward, or this week moving forward. And then the ways to work around would be looking at those obstacles and going, right, are they things I can overcome? If so, how can I do that? And what things can I commit to overcome those obstacles? This model, as you can see, takes a bit more time than the SMART model. The SMART model is almost a bit like a tick box exercise. You set your goal and you compare it to SMART and go, actually, how can I make this more specific? How can I make this measurable? And it is a bit of a tick box exercise in a lot of environments. But this grow model helps us really bring it into your life, make it really, really personable or personal to you. Because the worst things I see in the gym is that people have all this motivation and it can go to waste because they set themselves up for failure in the long term, when actually having this almost like dose of reality, holding them back a little bit. And as a coach, this is often one of my main roles with people is sort of holding them back a little bit, because they're going to set themselves up for failure in the long term, and holding them back allows them to build momentum, build confidence, and allows that flexibility for life to happen. And that helps us more in the long run, rather than having this short sprint, almost like the tortoise and the hare. It's allowing them to be more steady, but more consistent over a long period of time. And we know consistency trumps that short sprint of motivation any day. So obviously after all this, it's really important to review and revise your plan. Ensure that you're putting in regular scheduled reviews in there. And that's why that sort of time-based element is really important, because it allows us to reflect and say, right, am I on time? Am I on track to achieve this goal? If not, do I need to reevaluate the plan or my expectations towards the end of this process? So now we've gone through the models, I just wanted to add in a few extra bits to consider. First of all is flexibility. There's a really great sort of quote I love, and it's be persistent with your goals but flexible in your approach. And it's understanding that life happens, things come at you that you're not expecting, and rigid goals don't allow us to bend and flex with that. So when I'm sitting down with someone in a gym and they're setting up, like I said, with the 5 sessions a week, 5 sessions might be achievable, but it might not be achievable every week. And that's why I might set the goals at 3 to 5. So once we've got that minimum standard, it allows us to allow for those life events. So something comes up on a Monday, rather than going, right, Monday's gone and I haven't gone to the gym, I'm meant to go 5 times, well, what's the point now? Actually, you can still hit those 3 sessions that week, or maybe even 4. So having that air of flexibility allows us to be more consistent, like I said, and can be really motivating as well, because if we've got that range rather than that black and white thinking, it allows us to hit our goals more consistently and grow from them. Another thing that I mentioned earlier is the importance of recognizing outcome versus process goals. So the 2 fundamental categories here. Outcome goals are where you want to be or what you want to do at the end, or what you want to achieve. And the process is how we're going to achieve it. It's important to have both of these, because often people have that outcome goal in mind of, right, I'm going to do X in 12 months' time. I'm going to run a half marathon. I am going to lose 3 stone in 3 months. How are we going to do that? And often the how is more important than the actual what we're trying to achieve at the end. Both are important, but it's often the one that gets neglected is how we're going to do it. And this is where the common phrase comes in: the journey often matters more than the destination. And the reason I say that is because the things that we do help us achieve this outcome, that we've got this lifestyle that we're developing, all these habits that we're building across this time period to achieve this outcome. If this outcome is something that we want to maintain, often something that I see with weight loss is they want to hit a certain weight loss goal and maintain that weight loss, maintain that transformation. In order to maintain that, we need to continue to do the things that got us there in the first place. And this is why observing, or making sure that we see the long-term likelihood of doing these actions, these habits and behaviors as being really important. If you, for this next 12 weeks, go, right, I'm going to go to the gym 3 times a week, I'm going to eat 3 to 5 fruits and veg per day, I'm going to have 3 servings of protein a day, make sure I'm hydrated, I'm going to go for a walk, a 10-15 minute walk 2-3 times a day. All these things are fantastic. However, these things, if you want to maintain the results that you achieve in the long term, you're going to have to maintain these habits as well, which is often where we see people reach a goal and then they revert back to their old ways. For example, they might have lost a significant amount of weight and go, right, I'm happy, I've done it. And then they revert back to their old ways. And actually, that's because they don't enjoy the process. And this is why it's important to really observe and make sure that you're going to buy into this process for the duration or for as long as you want to maintain these results. If you don't want to maintain results long term, then potentially not as important. But we are looking at sustainable lifestyle change and better health, which is a lifelong goal. So ensure that these habits here are something that you want to buy into for the long term, or as long as you feel that you need to, in order to maintain the goal that you want to achieve. And lastly, just before we wrap up, there's 2 different types of goals as well that are worth considering when we look at setting goals. The first is approach and the other is avoidance, and we'll cover approach first. So approach is something that we want to concentrate on doing. It's more of a positive action. It's something inclusive where we're going to do more, we're going to eat more, we're going to start doing this behavior, for example. So if we're looking at weight loss, it could be eating more fruits and veg. It could be I'm going to start going to the gym. It could be that I'm going to start drinking more water. It could be that I'm going to make sure that I'm getting my 7 to 9 hours of sleep per night. The opposite of that is the avoidance goals, which would be things like I'm going to stop drinking alcohol, I'm going to stop eating chocolate, I'm going to stop or cut down on my sort of processed foods. And as you can see, these are both beneficial and both pair up quite well. I'd say one of the things that often gets missed is the approach element for a lot of people. The things that we can do more of and more inclusive, they're definitely more positive, and they're more positive in people's mindsets as well. So making sure that you've got a balanced amount, if not more approach goals and avoidance goals, can be really useful for your headspace. This isn't me. The old me probably would have said that actually avoidance goals shouldn't be had at all, but I do think it's important to have something that you're almost not wanting to do. It can be an incredibly powerful driver, and I often see this, and I've seen it huge amounts within the NHS, where people have a life event, they've been bed bound and they've been unable to walk up the stairs. They might have had a cardiac event, for example, or a heart scare or a heart attack, and they're building back and they're not wanting to go back to where they were, and that's an avoidance goal. Yes, we're going to set in lots of approach goals in there of going, right, so we're going to try and increase our physical activity, improve diet quality by including more fruits, vegetables, legumes, proteins, those sort of things. But we might reduce saturated fat, for example, reduce salt intake, and those are avoidance goals. But the outcome avoidance goal might be, I don't want to be back where I was, and that can be incredibly powerful for people who have gone through that, or people who have just observed it as well, that a family member might have gone through something and is going, I don't want to be like that. And that's completely fine as well. So it's important to have that balance there between approach and avoidance goals. So that is it. That is goal setting manual for you. That is your go-to guide for goal setting, whatever you want to frame it as. That can really, really help you in not just getting clear with your goals, but actually achieving them as well and staying motivated and making you more likely to achieve them. So thank you very much for listening to today's episode of the Balanced Approach podcast. If you have any questions or queries or would like to reach out to me, please do. I'm at Louis Padian Nutrition, which is at LOUISPADIAN Nutrition on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, all social media platforms. If you're looking for support in achieving your goals or want to improve your health, living a healthier, happier life, or having a more balanced approach to things, click the link below and inquire with working with me. And thanks again for listening, and I shall speak to you again soon.